Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another late show with your host, Young Brando. I'm still reeling from all the cigars that I've smoked earlier this week, so I apologize if I'm sounding too bassy and a little too deep, but I will try to rise above it. Um, I think we will get into earnest today to present on the auctions, but if you want to jump on the panel for Watch Talk, you're always welcome. So feel free to do that. We had started a little bit, at least, to go through Christie's, kind of, went through maybe quarter way through the auction, through the lots, but let's take a look and see how we are faring. um, we were talking a little bit about meteorite dial Daytonas yesterday. So there's lot 61, which is of course from the 6-digit era, when these kinds of precious metal Daytonas were also presented on the leather strap, with, of course, um, matching déployant buckles. I think the white gold with the meteorite dial is quite a nice and sporty look. I remember my friend Swiss, who had jumped on, once upon a time, and he was taking issue a little bit with the Roman numerals on this particular dial, since the watch otherwise looks quite sporty. But actually, come to think of it, I really don't mind. I think you have just a little bit of everything, and ultimately a very versatile watch, even though it's a very unique dial material, and it's a very unique kind of dial configuration. Ultimately, I think this watch can go either way, depending on the strap that you use. It can be something a little more sober. Of course, it can't necessarily be, um, I don't know, like a tuxedo watch or something, but it can carry you through most sorts of occasions, sporty or formal, casual or casual and dynamic, or more highbrow and suave. I think this will be a great watch for the right person, and that's lot 61, a 116519, a white gold Daytona with the meteorite dial. And of course, the 6-digit generation is when Rolex introduced for the first time its own quote unquote in-house caliber, for its self-winding chronograph, the Daytona. We talked also quite a bit about Rolex's gem setting yesterday night, so it would be a crime to pass up without saying anything about lot 62, which is 116758 SR, which is basically a sapphire slash ruby take on the iconic Pepsi bezel. Of course, in this case, the bezel is set upon a gold watch that has, in fact, diamonds on the locks as well. And of course, there are square cut diamonds to match the hour markers too. That's a model that is usually called Saru. It's a GMT Master 2 from 2000s. This particular example is from 2009, and it is estimated to fetch an amount between $90,000 to $140,000. There's a very nice Blancpain 50 Fathoms Aqualung, kind of one of the iconic um, vintage divers. That whole no radiation sign itself, I think, has inspired so many reissues, reiterations, and homage watches, and a lot of collaborations between watch brands and journalistic outlets. But here is basically the original, and it literally refers to basically the use of luminous material on the dial that's supposedly, low on radiation, or contains, in fact, no radiation. A very, very beautiful 50 fathoms that's in a way more wearable than maybe on a daily basis than the 45 millimeter version, since it scales about 41. And as you can see, the bezel takes up a lot of the space as well. So it certainly has a different feel on the wrist than a modern 50 fathoms, which might or might not make it preferable to some among you. And the estimate for that is $20,000 to $30,000. I mean, I just love the aesthetic. It looks like a UFO on the wrist. These kinds of divers. I think you can say still pretty much the same thing about a lot of 4-digit Rolexes too, especially if you have the original acrylic dome crystals on them. And people have made replicas that more or less resemble, more or less relay the same kind of feeling, communicate the same kind of affect, but the real stuff is the real stuff. So it's hard to replicate the emotions that years and years and layers upon layers of memory leaves upon an object, and this is one of those things, and beautifully presented on a tropic rubber strap as well. And the theme kind of continues. There's a special edition Black Bay 58 Platinum Jubilee RASP, one of 300 examples. Very cool. This was actually made for the Platinum Jubilee of the late Queen Elizabeth II, who passed away earlier this year, of course, right after making her Platinum Jubilee. So this is a very interesting memory. Again, it's only one of the 300, and it does have that special emblem of the RASP on the dial at 6 o'clock. Of course, not to be confused with platinum as the case material. This is still a steel watch. What is referred to is, of course, the Platinum Jubilee, which was celebrated in 2022 to mark the 70 years that Queen Elizabeth II had served on the throne. An early example of a Tudor Submariner following next. 7928 with the Tudor Rose logo and the Submariner hands, the Lollipop seconds hand. A very remarkable and in many ways an aesthetic that has its own enthusiasts, has its own followers and fanboys, so to speak. I think Tudor Submariner is a genre that was in the past very little appreciated, but once the internet community, in terms of the more popular and popularizing outlets, got off the ground, these were one of the earliest items to pick up a certain hype. And I think it's very much well deserved for these sorts of examples, especially that still constitute, I think, relatively decent deals. Of course, the movement is nothing to write home about, but that's never been a distinctive factor of Rolex for most of the second half of the 20th century to begin with. So I think a Tudor Submariner is still a wonderful thing for not maybe your first dip in the deeper end of the vintage pool. It's the kind of purchase that requires a lot of education, if not hand holding and professional guidance. And I would be more than happy to help you with that process. But the Tudor Submariner, especially from the 4-digit era, is a wonderful thing. And you see one of the grails next to it, of course, the one with the red triangle and the big crown, more or less Tudor's version of the Bond Submariner. That's a 7924 with an estimated value of $60,000 to $100,000 at lot 67, whereas lot 66 had an estimated value of $15,000 to $25,000. Hi, Junior. So nice to see you, man. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And yes, I love the Aqualung as well. It's a very cool vintage diver watch. And here is probably, in the world of vintage Rolex, this is my absolute grail. A double red sea dweller. Hopefully one day I'll be lucky enough to own one of these. These are still, since people mostly have moved on to independents and high horological brands and complicated watches and contemporary watches, prices have started settling in vintage Rolex. So I'm hoping that time will come where you will have even better deals. But a 1665, still, for the iconic status that it has, certainly it's not in an incredibly limited number, to be honest, but still, compared to any other sea dweller, of course, it is a limited production, right? And that's the thing with a lot of vintage watches. Ultimately, there's only so much of them to go around. And those who get caught up by a certain hype very quickly can become inaccessible to the average collector. And a lot of times they get snapped up by people who really can afford to hold them forever. So sometimes there are once in a lifetime opportunities in the market that never ever come back again. Hopefully that's not the case with the double red sea dweller, but here we are, a fine example offered at lot 68 with an estimated value of $30,000 to $50,000. we have a nice quartet of Daytonas. Let me count them from back down, basically. A so-called John Mayer, of course, since he was integral to the infamy of this watch by hyping it up in the second episode of Talking Watches. By the way, if you haven't caught up to it yet, they just filmed and released the second episode of Talking Watches with John Goldberger. Filmed again in a beautiful location in Geneva. There are no, very special lightning in a bottle kind of moments like there was in the first one, but still some very beautiful watches. I'm not going to spoil anything. Go watch it on your own time. It's a beautiful, beautiful episode. Of course, Ben Clymer personally interviewing John Goldberger with some watches that he brought. So 116508 more or less was a neglected watch, along with its basically white gold cousin, let's put it this way. These were two watches that were released side by side with those were two watches released side by side with the 116500, right? The stainless steel ceramic bezel Daytona. So this 116508, the one in 18 karat yellow gold, green dial, red accents, and 116509 white gold with blue dial in a similar sunburst finish, again with red accents. Again, it's one of those moments that you can't necessarily rationalize, in the sense that I don't think the white gold version caught the same kind of hype, even though it's a blue dial watch. But here we are. And you have lot 73 with an estimated value of $40,000 to $60,000, where Rolex dealers before had all sorts of problems getting these sorts of precious metal watches off their shelves. Next up, we have, I think, one of the most beautiful versions of a black and gold Daytona in the 62, 65. It's an amazing piece. It actually comes with the papers, so that's always beautiful. Let's read a little bit about this because it's significant. 4-digit Rolex Daytonas are some of the most desirable and collectible wristwatches. And the reference 6265 is no exception. The timepiece is constructed from 18 karat yellow gold, has a screw-down crown and pushers to ensure a watertight seal, so an oyster case. They also offer a more sporty aesthetic. Yeah, I guess you can agree that screw-down pushers perhaps offer a more sporty aesthetic, but certainly are significantly less utilitarian, but that's another discussion altogether. This watch has a matte black dial and gold registers that complement the 18 karat yellow gold case. The gold and black combination provides a striking and beautiful contrast. Another distinctive and interesting feature about reference 6265 is the Oyster text below Rolex. It's large and excludes perpetual since the watch is manually wound. Right? Again, that's something that sometimes confuses people, but it's actually quite straightforward. Every single Rolex watch, basically, except for the Cellini series, and with some exception to the rule here and there, and there's always an exception to the rule, every single Rolex watch is an Oyster Perpetual, right, in the modern line. And what does that mean? Oyster refers to the Rolex patented and characteristic case construction that achieves the kind of waterproofness and dust and weatherproofness in an earlier era that Rolex had famously achieved, and that Rolexes were known for quite some time now. And perpetual refers to the self-winding mechanism inside. So when you talk about an Oyster Perpetual, of course, you have the distinctive entry line, which has caught its own hype in the last couple of years. But essentially, every single model is Oyster Perpetual X, Oyster Perpetual Submariner, Oyster Perpetual GMT Master 2, Oyster Perpetual, so on and so forth, right? In the current line, of course, you have the Oyster Perpetual Cosmograph Daytona as well. So in this case, you have simply Oyster and no mention of the Perpetual, since you still have caliber, Valjoux-based hand-wound caliber beating inside the 6265. Of course, these are even more slender and sleek than the modern versions of Daytona, which in fact among Rolex professional models still constitute the most delicate, elegant, and unisex models, to be honest. I've made a video about this as well, particularly focusing on famous women who wear Daytonas and style them in very beautiful and feminine ways. But when it comes to the 4-digit Daytonas, you have something that's even more, even smaller, and in a way perhaps more amenable to be pulled into a territory that you can call unisex, you can call dressier, but at any rate, it's a different feeling altogether, especially with the hand-wound movement. They're also thinner watches, so it's a different experience wearing them completely, making it suitable for a plethora of wrist sizes, as the wonderful copy says here. However, it maintains a large presence due to the sporty styling and 18-karat yellow gold case. And that's another thing to note, by the way. Bruce G, nice to see you, man. Because the links in this era of gold bracelets, so even if this came with a matching gold bracelet, you still wouldn't have the same kind of heft. Nothing similar at all with a modern Rolex gold watch, right? Still, you have a very authentic, completely different vintage feeling when you wear these kinds of things. It's a completely different experience. I wouldn't diss it without trying, and I would advise heavily for anyone and everyone who has an opportunity to see an auction preview or has these sorts of examples in a metropolitan center, where you have established vintage Rolex dealers, jewelers. By all means, go out and try. You would not know unless you tried. And this is lot 72 with an estimated value of $160,000 to $260,000. It's a Rolex reference 6265. You have a 6264 with a matching Jubilee bracelet, beautiful champagne dial, black sub-registers, that acrylic tachometer bezel. So it's a very nice aesthetic in a way, resembling in vintage, perhaps something that strikes the modern Daytona fan as a little bit more familiar. And lot 71 is estimated to fetch an amount between $100,000 to $200,000. And you have a steel Daytona, a stainless steel big red, in fact, at lot 70. That's a reference 6263, and it's called a big red due to that enlarged red script of the model name around the 12-hour counter. Of course, the same kind of bezel, silvered white dial, black subdials, black chronograph registers, completing that famous quote-unquote panda look, with an estimated value of $40,000 to $60,000. Once again, I should drop the link in the chat. So if you would like to highlight any particular watches that I'm just skipping over, feel free to alert me. Feel free to draw my attention to them with a super chat, and I will be more than happy to oblige and deep dive into it. By the way, in the meantime, since I already plugged it, I will send a link to the Daytona video that I did a little while ago on the unisex appeal of the watch. And I will also send a link about the next category of watches or dials that I will be talking about, which is represented here by lot 81. This wasn't immediately popular when it was released, but I think it started becoming appreciated not too long after. This is a discontinued model, but not a discontinued reference. You have the 5235R in the lineup these days, which is presented in a rose gold case with the similar kind of brushed grain dial. That's perhaps a shade or two darker. The subdials are sunken in black, and finally the railroad track on the perimeter of the dial for the minutes is also black in that model. This is the 5235G, which was discontinued by Patek Philippe, I think about 3 years ago, maybe. I find this a little more appealing for whatever reason. Maybe it's the blue accents against the gray that set it off. Maybe it's my general leaning towards white metal watches. This is an annual calendar watch that Patek presents in a regulator dial configuration. I wanted to send a link to a video that I made on regulator dial or regulator watches, in fact, period. And those were basically clocks that were at the center stage of watch manufacturers and repair shops in a bygone era, where basically you had a clock, which they called a regulator, that put at its center stage the minute hand for the precise setting and synchronizing of every single timepiece in that workshop. And these kinds of regulator clocks were also used in railways, of course, and it was really almost a life and, well, literally a life and death matter when it came to the railways, since the synchronizing of the conductors' pocket watches was actually vital to avoiding any sorts of accidents and crashes. So it's a part of watchmaking history that somehow captured modern imagination as well, and really gives you this unique way of representing time, expressing time, without also looking too odd or too antiquated in a way, even though it is a way of representing time that's very integral to horological history. So this was a video that I did a while ago, but I'm sure you'll find something in it. Post a link to that as well. And yes, 5235G is something that gets appreciated increasingly. I'm not sure if it will achieve some sort of special collector status. I don't have a crystal ball, but it is a very nice watch. So if you like regulator dial watches, if you're a fan of the Patek's Caliber 240, which is the base caliber for all their micro rotor movement watches. If you like annual calendar as a complication, and again, that's one of the flagship everyday useful small complication series of Patek watches. These are great. As you see, date at 6 o'clock, month at 1 3/4, and day of the week at 10 1/4. Of course, the hour at 12 o'clock, running seconds at 6 on the two subdials that balance the dial pretty perfectly. Gives a very harmonious look to the face of the watch. This is a piece that is offered from the original owner, and lot 81 has an estimated value of $30,000 to $50,000. $5960R, of course, 5960 as an entire series is also discontinued altogether. Was first discontinued in steel. Now every single other option has been gone as well, including the platinum. That was a very appealing combination of complications for Patek, because much very much in the way that Patek combined in 1518 in another era, in 1941, um, two signature complications, perpetual calendar and chronograph. Uh, at a later stage, they combined in the 5960 for the first time their annual calendar, a proprietary complication, with a self-winding chronograph, which was their first. So 5960 in many ways was in 1990, pardon me, 5916 in many ways was also a similar achievement for Patek, but the stainless steel version was discontinued in 2018, and the series finally bit the dust in 2021 by the discontinuation of the white gold version as well. So the example here in pink gold is going up for an auction at lot 80 with an estimated value of $30,000 to $50,000. We have three interesting world times. A 5130G in white gold at lot 82. 5110P in platinum. You see a kind of an ice blue guilloche center dial that sets it apart from the white gold. And the 5130R in pink gold. And they are, relatively reasonable. Again, these world times of earlier generations, especially something like 5110, you want the platinum Patek. This is kind of the watch to go for. Yes, it is 37 millimeters, but whether you are talking about world time, this is what you have, 5110P, or maybe you're talking about an annual calendar from an earlier generation, and you have that very ably presented as well in I'm blanking out on the reference number. Sorry, guys. It happens sometimes. Oh, yes. 5056P. So these are, of course, 37 millimeter watches, but I think they wear extremely well, especially as dress watches. I think they fit perfectly on most wrists. Discreet, but quite hefty, thanks to the material of the case, which is platinum. Hardly gets better than that if you want that luxurious weight on your wrist. I think in a way these are very undervalued among Patek Philippe watches on the secondary market. 5110P, or really 5110 in any metal, 5056 in any metal, but certainly in platinum. I think these are relatively neglected and somewhat undervalued. So that could be an interesting way to get into a very precious and quite wearable as a dress watch, Patek Philippe. And this is estimated to go for somewhere between $25,000 to $45,000. That's lot 83. We have a very nice chronograph by Erlang und Söhne, 1815. Of course, it's not datograph, but still a brilliant piece. It might be a little more wearable to many, right? Because it's slimmer. It has the same base caliber as the datograph, but it does not have the big date display and the power reserve display. So that slims down the watch quite a bit, more than 2 millimeters, in fact. And the case itself is also smaller, scaling right under 40 millimeters, 39.5. And this is an early example of the 1815, a beautiful flyback chronograph, a great representation of Erlang und Söhne's style with a matte black dial, which is a wonderful contrast against the pink gold of the case, which is a very nice alloy, by the way, when it comes to Lange. It's not very coppery. I think it looks very elegant. I mean, obviously they have their famous honey gold, which is even more precious and rare, and really something special. You know, it's not just a marketing gimmick. Again, it's one of those things you need to see in person before you simply diss it. But their pink gold is quite amazing as well. And this is Erlang und Söhne 1815, reference number 401.131 at lot 88, $20,000 to $40,000 off an estimated value. Again, also, if you would like me to take a closer look at any of these watches, I am hoping to make it to at least one or two of these auction houses tomorrow, before it's too late, before the previews are complete and the bidding actually starts. So feel free. I think I am a little too late for the Christie's at this point, but when it comes to Sotheby's and Phillips, I can still drop by. So if you want to mark down any of the lots from those auctions and want me to take a closer look at them, feel free to highlight them for me. Feel free to share them in the chat, ideally with a super chat, and I will see what I can do tomorrow. Lot 89 was the last generation of Patek Philippe hand-wound chronographs that were based on the Lemonnia CH27 caliber. And they kind of came back after all those years with a vengeance, right? All the way after 1463 was discontinued. And they were positively large, right? In the sense that compared to especially its predecessor, right? The so-called iconic 1463 is a 35 millimeter watch, right? So Patek came out with 5070 in, I think, must have been 1998. And it was a 42 millimeter watch, gigantic, based on the same Lemania CH-27 or 2310 caliber. You can kind of see how much work and how many steps it takes Patek to slot in that caliber into a 42 millimeter case. But that's another matter altogether. At least from the face of it, the watch looks quite beautiful and elegant. A black dial with gilt accents, including the applied Arabic numerals that coordinate really well with the yellow gold of the case. This is quite a modern looking watch, and it is the last generation of Lemania or Nouvelle Lemania powered Patek Philippe chronographs, hand-wound chronographs, and for that reason, I think they'll always be an important piece of history. Lot 89 is reference 5070J, as in Jaune for yellow gold, estimated value of 45 to 75 US dollars. $5170 as opposed to 5070 was Patek's first generation of chronographs with an in-house caliber that has a base that they call CH-29. Beautiful pulsometer, as you can see on the perimeter of the dial, graduated for 15 pulsations. A doctor's watch, so to speak, great for those of you in the medical field. And this is a 39 millimeter watch, so it is, in a way, perhaps more universally wearable. A very elegant piece as well, with a white dial contrasting with the yellow gold appointments on the dial, black accents. I think it's a very classy piece. It's a 5170J at lot 90 with an estimated value of $30,000 to $50,000. 5172G is quite popular these days. They also now, since the last Watches and Wonders, have a Salmon dial version too. This is the current representation of the hand-wound Patek Philippe chronograph with those delightful stepped lugs to the case. The watch, I think, in many ways has a wonderful balance of vintage inspiration and modern drive. The syringe hands, pump pushers, even the stepped lugs, I think, are wonderful tips of the hat to the heritage of a vintage or archival Patek Philippe watch. But I think with the Arabic numerals, the blue dial, and the white metal of the case, the watch also has an undeniable modern sportiness to it. And it has been quite popular. And it's still, of course, in the lineup, along with the Salmon dial version. And lot 92 is estimated to realize a final hammer price of $45,000 to $65,000. We were just talking about the discontinuation of 5960s. It was also offered in platinum, of which an example is on lot 93. The annual calendar chronograph by Patek Philippe with a platinum case on a leather strap. estimated to go for 40 to 60,000. And as you see, the steel version with the matching 5-row beads of rice bracelets is the most desired one, really. That's lot 94 with an estimated value of 60 to 80,000. I think it's really a gorgeous, gorgeous piece. Another 5960. This is the G white gold with blue dial. That's also quite popular with an estimated value of 50 to 80,000, as represented in lot 103. Lot 102 is a jumbo golden ellipse, 5738p platinum. A shame that something retailed by Tiffany does not have the writing on the dial, but I think it has something to do with the heat, with the kiln firing process that helps them achieve that blue on the dial, which is actually made out of solid gold. That's the only excuse I can find to it. But in a way, it's a shame because you have the caliber 240, that gorgeous micro rotor caliber. You can't see it because the golden ellipse is about sleekness, is about achieving a certain thinness where the watch just sinks into your wrist and disappears. So you can't really have an exhibition case back for that. You have a Tiffany related watch, but no script on the dial. That's an interesting flex. I don't know. And perhaps for that reason, it has a relatively low estimate of $25,000 to $45,000. That's a lot. That's the lot 102. Lot 106 is the ever so popular 5990 that was retailed by Tiffany and signed by Tiffany, and seemingly in the Tiffany blue too, which I have to confirm in the lot essay, but this is lot 106 at 5990/1A-001 stainless steel, travel time chronograph, flyback chronograph in the Nautilus case with an estimated value of $150,000 and $250,000. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about the Tiffany signature on the dial, but I swear it looks like a different color than everything else. Is it just me? Am I going insane here? I don't think I have seen anything like that before, especially not on a modern Patek watch like Tiffany in that blue script. I don't know. My mind must be playing tricks on me. It can't be possible. But that was lot 106. You have a number of, a couple of Nautiluses following that. 5711, the now discontinued and iconic in its own right reference of the Nautilus. The case has now been enlarged, as you know, in 5811. You know, I've said my piece on it. I think it looks very unbalanced in the new iteration. Of course, again, it's one of those things that you have to see up close. I haven't had the chance yet, but it is what it is. I think it is the sign of the times. Patek is becoming lazier and lazier by each passing day, and more unimaginative and uninspiring I can say the same about Audemars Piguet as well, and so many other brands. So not necessarily singling them out. Um, but 5711 was just fine. And this is a Tiffany and Co. Uh, co-signed or double-signed piece, estimated to go for 100 to 200,000. You have a 3700 in yellow gold, with a diamond set porthole bezel on that outer edge, which usually comes in mirror polish. You have a 14802BA in lot 109. Oh, sorry, 108 is estimated to fetch around 230,000 to 330,000 dollars. 109 is a Jubilee edition Royal Oak. This was 14802, the reference number. These were a series of Royal Oaks released for the 20th anniversary of the model. They were the first generation of Royal Oaks that had Royal Oak Jumbos that were made with an exhibition caseback, have that unique rotor that replicates and plays around with the octagonal shape in this cutout slash skeletonized design. I think these are gorgeous watches, but because of their limited number, in many ways, they can sell for even more than 5402s here in its original presentation box with the number. This was one of 1,000. There were only 1,000 examples produced in yellow gold, as you can see, with that iconic night blue dial. The background of the date disc resonating with the metal of the watch more than the color of the dial. I think this is a beautiful piece as well. Things haven't gotten necessarily better since. This is lot 109, estimated value of $60,000 to $100,000. By the way, these are even, even rare in stainless steel too. I think, let's see what the number might be in stainless steel. Yeah, I think they were also made in 1,000 examples. So yeah, those are extremely desirable as well, and quite hard to find with each passing day. That was a 14802BA at lot 109, Royal Oak Jumbo Extra Thin, released for the 20th anniversary of the model in 1992, produced in 1,000 examples. You have a platinum pink gold two-tone Royal Oak perpetual calendar. That replicates the theme even in the rotor weight of the caliber. Beautiful pink salmon dial as well. Only 37 examples. This is one of them, 130,000 to 230,000 at lot 111. That's a 25,686 PR. OR, which is 25/8/10 OR, is a Royal Oak perpetual calendar in pink gold with the matching bracelet. It also has the addition of the weekly calendar. Now, again, you may or may not prefer it, but I kind of like the earlier expressions of these. I think the dials look more balanced to me once you add the weekly calendar and leap year and whatever else. I find that there's a little too much going on, but that doesn't say much. This is something that was released in 1995, which was, of course, 120th anniversary of the company. It was apparently only 120 examples, not coincidentally, of course. It is really a gorgeous watch, don't take me wrong. And as you can see, this example looks perfectly pristine. And as you see, they didn't really reinvent the wheel with the 50th anniversary rotor. They have been doing these things for a while now. This is lot 112 with an estimated value of $140,000 to $240,000. You have in lot 113 chiming watch and Audemars Piguet Royal Oak minute repeater 26591 in titanium with a gorgeous salmon dial with their Grande Tapisserie design. A very beautiful and distinguished watch, $350,000 to $550,000 of estimated value. I think these were introduced just a few years ago. So still very unique, still relatively new and altogether rare, of course. And they finished pretty strong with, again, a quartet of Patek Philippe perpetual calendars, some of which extremely new, others perhaps flirting with the neo-vintage territory, so to speak. 3970 EG in its fourth series iteration at lot 114. This is, again, one of my favorite Patek perpetual calendars. Its sizing is beautiful. For a perpetual calendar chrono, I think 36 millimeters is just gorgeous, kind of perfect. Here you have it in a white gold, beautiful white dial. No wasted space or no blind spots on this dial either, but everything comes together really well. Orange hand. Yes, I did. I did, my friend. I was just talking about it earlier in the broadcast. I enjoyed it very much. I think the location was beautiful too. Basil, hey man, so lovely to see you here. Hey, thank you guys for joining me. So lot 114 has an estimated value of $70,000 to $100,000. I think I should be plugging this laptop in very soon. 5270, which I think is actually also quite a beautiful piece, with those kind of arachnoid or spider-like steeped or stepped lugs. Um, I think it's a good look. 41 millimeters. Look at that beautiful movement. Of course, this one has the Patek Philippe seal, unlike the 3970, which has the Geneva seal. But the features remain more or less the same, except the day and night indicator and the leap year indicator here are reduced to two little openings at the lower half of the watch, rather than being squeezed in a way to the chronograph registers. Again, I think it's a matter of preference, but great watches nonetheless. This is lot 115, estimated value of $80,000 to $120,000. 116 is a 5270 as well, in platinum, however. Salmon dial with blackened applied Arabic numerals for the upper half of the dial, which match with the handset as well. That's a beautiful aesthetic too. And, you know, again, platinum Patek with a salmon dial, what can you ask for? That is estimated to fetch somewhere between $2,000 to $400,000, and you have an even more rare and more recent version of that with this smoked green dial. Same case, same material, however, a very recent and limited dial. The bracelet, the strap has contrast stitching that goes with that green theme as well. And that is expected to go somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000 too. And I don't know if you noticed, but even Christie's matched the colors on that one. Look at this green. Gotta appreciate that level of detail. You know, you have at your last lot 117, a green watch, and you give it kind of the appointments on that page that really emphasize the thematic. I think it's great. I don't particularly like this watch, but it's a great presentation for this platinum Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronograph. Right, the Christie's done and dusted. We can now move on to Sotheby's, which is in fact the next auction. The Christie's Important Watches auction is tomorrow, whereas the Sotheby's one is going to be on Friday. You know, once again, I'm gonna post the link in the chat for those of you who may have missed it earlier. So if you have any lots that you want to highlight, that you want me to pay particular attention to, please don't hesitate to alert me, and I will get right back to it. And here's another example of that, 116519, presented here on a rubber B band with the contrast stitching that picks up the red accents on the dial, on the face of the watch. I think these are beautiful pieces, and again, for a meteorite dial, Rolex watch, still on the softer side. So this could be an interesting piece, at least in the future. I don't know if it is necessarily the right time to buy it. No investment advice. As always, I try to emphasize that. I don't give that sort of advice on the live stream. Certainly don't give it for free. And this is lot 10116519 with an estimated value of $40,000 to $60,000. Let me get a quick drink of water, actually, while you look at this wonderful Christian van der Klauw planetarium watch. And I'll be right back with you. Okay. Again, I dropped the link as well, so you're all welcome on the panel. Christian van der Klauw is, as you might know, a Dutch watchmaker. These sorts of astronomical watches seem to be one of his strong suits. It's Planetarium 2000 from 2008, as it happens, 40 millimeters in pink gold with the matching buckle, authentic to the watch, box, but no papers or outer packaging, but there is a warranty booklet apparently, as well as the planetarium booklet, with an estimated value of $8,000 to $12,000. Now, some, of course, again, give a hard time to a watchmaker like Christian van der Klauw because the base of this movement, which is clearly heavily modified, is an ETA 2824, right? With all the complications added and with certainly a different level of finishing, as you can see, it's a different animal. But of course, brands like Breitling would slap that caliber into a time and date watch with an absolute stupid simplicity and sell it for $5,000-6,000, and no one bats an eye, and in fact go ahead and buy it for a summer watch. So it's a strange world, this horological world sometimes, but certainly some of the smaller micro independents who are trying to do something unique and different with relatively limited resources and at an accessible price point, I feel are sometimes unjustly attacked. I've seen this happen to Christian van der Klaauw, so I wanted to highlight this watch specifically. This is number 11 with an estimated value of $8,000 to $12,000. We have a lot of usual suspects, of course. This Vianney Alter is a very interesting watch. I find it like a more modernistic and maybe aggressive version of the Cartier Pasha. So kind of like a Janta design from the future, more exposed, bolts or screws on the bezel, the same Vendôme lugs that characterize the original Pasha design. I think this is a very unique piece, certainly not for everyone, but for those who like the Pasha, this can be kind of a more butch, more brutal expression of it in pink gold, roughly from 15 years ago. Lot 13 has an estimated value of $40,000 to $60,000. You have a Jaeger-LeCoultre watch that, again, I feel is relatively neglected. This is an reference 190T 97 Ambox 1 Aston Martin. In a way, this is a watch they produced to commemorate the fact that they used to build dashboards instruments for the dashboards of Aston Martins in a bygone time. So this is a watch that somehow reflects that aesthetic, reflects that design. Lot 20 in titanium, and with an alarm complication as well that you can set with the extra crown and a date. A very unique aesthetic, certainly not something that you see in a Jaeger-LeCoultre watch every day, and worth taking a look. This is lot number 20 with an estimated value of $4,000 to $6,000. More predictable and quite adventurous, as always, is the Reverso Gyro Tourbillon 2 at number 24. One of the most complicated watches made in modern time, in recent time, certainly the most complicated Reverso still, if I'm not mistaken. This is a platinum watch. I mean, look at that. I guess technically it's not the most complicated Reverso because Quadriptych has so many more functions as complications, whereas this just has a very unique and complex execution of the tourbillon. So it is what it is. Certainly worth the kind of flexing of horological muscles that were exerted on this particular piece. That's lot 24 with an estimated value of $100,000 to $200,000. You have Grand Complication Audemars Piguet. Grand Complication really means what it says. It is a piece that has basically everything but the kitchen sink. So as you see at 12 o'clock, you have the moon phase and weekly calendar. You have within the two chronograph registers, the date indicator at 9 o'clock and the day of the week at 3 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, you have both the month and the leap year. You have the beautiful Breguet numbers in very discrete applied setting, resonating with the platinum case. Of course, what you have ultimately is a perpetual calendar chronograph that also has this beautifully radial guilloche finished dial, but that's not all. You also have to notice that the chronograph is actually a rattrapante, so a split-second chronograph where you can time two discrete events back to back, right? Where you can use that extra pusher on the crown to split the two chronograph second hands that are centrally deployed, that are splayed out here in this current configuration. And finally, as you can see, you have a slider on the left flank of the case, which shows us that this is a chiming watch. So what you have is a split-second split-second perpetual calendar chronograph, minute repeater. A gorgeous piece, and basically every prestige complication crammed into a beautiful 42 millimeter platinum case. Very elegant. This is 25866 PT. To my knowledge, it's not that thick either. Let me see. Yeah, it's 14 millimeters, so kind of wearable, which is very amazing. I mean, it's you have basically everything. It's very elegant, very wearable, and quite gorgeous. This is $150,000 to $250,000. Jules Audemars, Grand Complication, 25866 PT at lots 26. Expected to go all the way up to $250,000, but who knows? You have a number of interesting FP Jaunes, one of which I have featured on my thumbnail. The Platinum Tourbillon Souverain Remontoir d'Égalité. That's number 54 of a 99-piece run. It is expected to go for anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million. You have Platinum Chronomètre Résonance. which is which has become in almost suddenly, almost overnight, but in due time, the uh, identifying face of FP Journe as a watchmaker and as a brand. And it's quite a feat. Again, I don't tire of repeating this. Resonance was a phenomenon that Breguet executed in a pocket watch in his own time, but that was a pocket watch, and that was a pocket watch, if I'm not mistaken, that was larger than 60 millimeters, 62 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. And to basically execute in this particular fashion a two movement wristwatch in a 40 millimeter case that's quite slender as well. It's really a marvel, actually. Again, whether you enjoy it or not, whether you like it or not, whether you think it looks good or not, it's at some level it really doesn't matter, because this is a kind of watch that will in many ways define watchmaking for the late 20th century in a way that some of Breguet's designs and inventions defined the 19th century of watchmaking. And one thing that needs to be said again for FP Journe's movements, FP Journe's calibers, they might not be the most finely hand-finished products out there. They may even leave a lot to be desired compared to manufacturers that make multiple times many more watches than FP Journe does. But one thing that you always, well, I always admire is the architecture of the movements, the design of the movements. They clearly also reflect a vision. I mean, look at just the balance, symmetry, and beauty of this movement as a piece of design. This is an FP Journe chronometre Resonance in platinum at lot 29, $300,000 to $500,000 of estimated value. You have another super complication at lot 33. This, by the way, the Sotheby's one is the collection of an important Californian collector. A lot of these watches belong to the same collection. This this is again a beautiful piece that not only brings a perpetual calendar, but why not throws in tourbillon as well as a minute repeating complication into it. You have the platinum case that has kind of teardrop style stepped lugs. You have, as Patek does, no exhibition or exposure of the tourbillon on the watch face, but certainly the mark as well as the caliber number inscribed. Breguet numerals echoing with the platinum case. A retrograde date that functions as part of the perpetual calendar, occupying this central crescent. And finally, of course, the slider on the left flank of the case that allows you to chime the time. Breguet hands also go very well together with the Breguet numerals as well. You have at 36, you have a very early example of the Patek travel time. So this actually does not even have the extra hand, but the Louis Cotier patented application of those two pushers on the side of the case, on the left flank of the case, that allows you to jump the hour hands back and forth. A couple of years into the life of this reference 2597, an extra hand was added, and many of these initial references, initial series, was also modified. So to find one from these early series from 1960 that is in original condition is quite rare, and that's somehow, at least in the world of auction, justifies the price. This is a 2596 heure sautante, jumping hour, at lot 36, estimated value of $70,000 to $90,000. Oh, that looks amazing. Yeah, it's odd. It's odd that you might end up loving, the back of a watch more than the face of it. And this is not even an exhibition back, of course. That's just a glimpse of the movement. Everything rests under the case back, and that's all you need to know about high Swiss watchmaking from that era, before the term high horology was a marketing phrase. This is what good, honest watchmakers made, and this is how they communicated their passion, their commitment, and their mastery of the art to their fellow watchmakers. If anyone else lifts this case and takes a look at my work, I want them to see this, and not just any old brutalist caliber with a Spartan finish. '42 is a personal favorite. What an amazing piece. This is a 6542. Look at those alpha hands and the small GMT hand as well. Very early version of the root beer, as you can see. Not only the nipple dial and all these other details, but also the bakelite bezel. No crown guards, obviously, from that era. And that subtly riveted version, subtly riveted 18 karat gold version of the oyster bracelet. What a beautiful watch, and what an elegant watch at the same time. This is number 42, a very early example of 6542 root beer VOG. That's estimated to go for something between 100 to $200,000. Hey, JB, thank you for recognizing the King of New York. Basil's Bezels. He's here. He's here. Welcome back, JB. Um, reference 6034. 6034s and 6234s are some of my favorite Rolex references. Actually, relatively underrated. Um, I mean, a gorgeous example like this will, of course, still go for quite a bit. But, um, you know, what are you asking for, right? You have a pre-Daytona Rolex Oyster chronograph. You have a multimeter scale, you have the tachymeter and the telemeter, a 3-register chronograph with all the appointments. You have a red accent, you have a blue accent on the dial. Quite beautiful and almost pristine for a watch of 1953. And it has an estimated value of $100,000 to $200,000. It even has the original box and papers. I mean, it's unreal in a way. Of course, this is also based on Valjoux 72 caliber, much in the way that hand-wound Daytonas, the manual wind Daytonas, were also built on a Valjoux 72, a Bosch. 6265, we talked about similar versions of this. This comes on a matching bracelet, and lots 44 has an estimated value of $100,000 to $200,000. You have a 5-digit beautiful black dial Daytona. This is the first and last generation of self-winding Daytonas with an outsourced caliber built on the famous Zenith El Primero caliber, which was, of course, you can get it from the name, I hope, one of the first, if not the first, integrated self-winding chronograph movements. These are called Patrizi after the Italian dealer and auctioneer Osvaldo Patrizi, the founder of the Antiquorum auction house, among other things. And he was the first one to identify and almost obsessively source these early versions of the black dials that almost immediately started aging in this peculiar way, where the largely cream outer rings of the sub-registers of the chronograph registers started turning brown and gaining, for the most part, a very attractive shade. This one is certainly very desirable, and it is expected to fetch somewhere between $40,000 to $60,000. The 8171, the so-called Padellone, is very desirable, if for nothing else, because of its limited number. The example here is relatively well preserved. Of course, the dial shows the appropriate patina for its age. But what you have is a triple calendar with moon phase in a stainless steel 38 millimeter case, which is quite attractive and beautiful, especially for, again, for the period. 8171 Padellone. Um, precisely for that reason, right? Because it's like a frying pan. It's such a big watch, right? For the time period, 38 millimeters. Wow. This is expected to sell somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000. One of the most desirable vintage Rolex watches. Let's read the description and see what our auctioneers have said about this watch, which apparently also has a Spanish day and date wheel, or day wheel in Spanish, it says. Let's see. Rolex has never been known for making highly complicated watches and is mostly known for its tool watches. 101, that's great. However, one of the most iconic Rolex models ever produced is the complicated reference 8171, which is commonly referred by the collectors as the padellone, which means frying pan in Italian, a reference not only to the size of the watch, but its convex dial. Boasting a generous 38 millimeter case, it was extraordinarily modern in size and was a fair bit ahead of its time in this regard. Released in 1949, a year before the reference 6062, the 8171 and 6062 represent among the most complicated watches manufactured by Rolex at the time and are the only two vintage Rolex references produced in serial with a calendar and moon phase. The main difference between the two is that the 6062 features a 36 millimeter case with a screw-down case back, while the 8171 is fitted with a snap-on back and a 38 millimeter case. Despite its highly complicated movement, the watch is aesthetically pleasing. On the outer bezel, it has the numbers for the calendar, indicated by a third hand in the center. At 6 o'clock, the watch shows the moon phase in its sub-seconds dial with the day and the month wheels at 12 o'clock just under the crown. And they apparently have also a yellow gold version presented at lot 128. And scholars believe there are no more than 800 examples of these in stainless steel. Let's take a look at 128 and see what that is about. That's the very last piece. Again, similarly expected to produce similar numbers. Yeah, no more than 350 examples in yellow gold. Sorry about that. And we have another great example of the root beer at the 1675 reference. Again, in full 18 karat yellow gold, but this time with the matching Jubilee bezel, Jubilee bracelet, and the more modern and more immediately recognizable Mercedes style Rolex handset with the big GMT hand. And that's lot 47 with an estimated value of 50 to 100,000 US dollars. Once again, guys, if you want me to highlight any of the particular watches in this auction, if you want me to dive deep into any of them, feel free to send me a super chat with the lot number, and I would be happy to do that for you. We have at number 50 a Paul Newman Lemon, right? This is kind of the uh, citron colored version of the Paul Newman exotic dial that comes in the 18 karat yellow gold version. This example comes with a matching Jubilee bracelet. It's a reference 6264 and is estimated to go somewhere between 700,000 to $700,000 to a million point four, 1.4 million. Um, you have a 6240, which might strike you as a relative bargain. And small Daytona literally refers to just the writing of the Daytona there. That is small. The watch is otherwise perfectly fine in this sort of panda configuration against the silvered dial and black sub registers. That's a 6240 lot 51 with an estimated value of 30 to 50,000 US dollars. A Cartier Crash, which has now become obligatory, a limited edition in yellow gold from Cartier Paris from 1991. The iconic shape, the hidden Cartier signature at 7 o'clock, Paris, 120 to $180,000 at lot 56. You have a diamond set, Tang Chinoise, again, one of the most iterated and watch models with so many variations within the lineup. Tang Chinoise is more rectangular in a way and has this interesting lines. In this case, it's platinum and diamond sets. And that's just tape, by the way, not a different kind of application. And as you can see, instead of the cabochon, you have another diamond on the crown. And that's number 55, estimated to go for $8,000 to $12,000. A lot of interesting pieces there. You have a limited edition and an interesting expression of the moon phase with this Alangonzone at lot 66. It is the homage to Emil Lange to commemorate 150th anniversary of Emil Lange's birthday. This is again quite the gorgeous piece. One of 250 made, 25 to 45,000 US dollars. You have a Zaxomat Langematic Perpetual at 67 with this unique matching yellow gold bracelet. And this is, of course, a perpetual calendar version of the Saxonia, basically with the big date, and obviously an automatic movement. The estimate is $25,000 to $50,000 for lot 67. Lot 68 is a pink gold Lange 1 with the moon phase. This is before they came up with a new moon phase module, which also serves as a day and night indicator. That was, if I'm not mistaken, in 2019. I need to double check on that, but I think it was, oh no, 2016 was the new moon phase, but this is 2014, so this is the older movement. I think it's still gorgeous. You know, I don't necessarily care for it to serve as the day and night indicator either. As you can notice from the islands, this is the older Lange 1 caliber that was based on the Jaeger-LeCoultre gear trains. These are beautiful pieces, really. A Lange 1 with a moon phase, I think, is one of the heights of an elegant dress watch, with a strong character, and 68 certainly presents that. That's $20,000 to $30,000 of estimated value. Number 70 is a beautiful Breitling Co-Pilot / Avi. You can call it also a Jean-Claude Killy, because Jean-Claude Killy actually wore one of these as his personal watch. It's a beautiful take on that mid-century pilot's chronograph aesthetic, with the big eye 15-minute counter at 3 o'clock. Wonderful stick hands that are quite large. Arabic numeral at 12 o'clock. 12-hour rotating bezel, roughly from 1965, with an estimated value of $7,000 to $10,000. That's lot 70. Breitling 765 Co-Pilots. This is one of the iconic Breitling watches that Fred Mandelbaum actually collaborated with Georges Kern to reissue, and they're very lucky to have the re-editions in their roster these days. If you ask me, I think those are the best Breitlings, and they should thank Fred Mandelbaum. They should, I think, remain in his debt in gratitude in perpetuity, if you ask me. But hey, who cares about my opinion? We have 71. We have at lot 71 beautiful reference 2998-6 Speedmaster. Not to be confused with FAP. What we have, of course, is a watch that is connected with the Air Forces of Peru, right? It's signed accordingly on the back. So it's not only a watch that Omega fans will tap over, but also something that is connected to Fuerza Aérea del Perú, so the Peruvian Air Force. It's a military mil-spec military issued watch that also comes with the facsimile of the extract, at least from the archives, from the Omega archives, that confirms the date of manufacture from June 25, 1962. And actually with the helmet of Juan Joseph Costa, who served at the Peruvian Air Force Base in Las Palmas Surco. Very interesting. 321 caliber as well. Gorgeous handset. You know, very uniquely patinated watch. Lots of character. Not perhaps the kind of Speedmaster that people usually go for, modern or vintage, but I think it's very beautiful. You know, 2998 is a great reference if you ask me, and that's not only due to the 321 movement, but also the case shape, which I really like, case dimensions, which I really like and prefer, and that's lot 71 with an estimated value of $18,000 to $24,000. So Omega Speedmaster FAP is certainly something I would FAP for. 72 is a Tudor Submariner. Again, we have seen an example of these 7928s with an estimated value of 7 to 10,000. We have a few nice examples of diver watches here. 74 is a no radiation Bundeswehr, a version of the no radiation Blancpain 50 fathoms that was actually issued to the German military in mid 60s. Very nice piece with a tritium dial. That's lozenge marker at 12 o'clock is, I think, just a thing of beauty. And the estimated value is $15,000 to $25,000. And you have something that's possibly even more beautiful at 75, and that's a Mil-Spec 1 50 fathoms with that moisture indicator at 6 o'clock. And not to be confused with military issued, right? Whereas the first watch, the no radiation number 74, was actually something issued to the German Bundeswehr. This is actually a piece that's produced according to military specification, but reserved for civilian purpose. And the estimated value of lot 75, which is the latter, is $20,000 to $30,000. JB, thank you so much. What is your favorite Daytona, pre-Daytona in this auction? I saw a 6234 from another auction that had a unique bracelet also. My favorite was the one we just passed. I actually love that. Christie's one. Let's see. I can quickly recall it. It shouldn't take too long. JB, please bear with me. Okay. Let me see. Damn. Yeah, it was. It's this. Honestly, I kind of like how colorful it is. Ultimately, right? I don't know. I would like. It's the kind of watch that I would otherwise find obnoxious, but somehow it's it's so much that it somehow comes full circle and becomes something good. There's just so much color on the dial of this watch, and it's a very classic configuration. Otherwise, a gorgeous example of a pre-Daytona Rolex chronograph, built on that same Valjoux 72 base. You have a multimeter scale, both the tachometer and the telemeter. You have the tachometer in blue, telemeter in red, the dial furniture in gold. So it's like everything all at once against the silvered dial. I think it's a very beautiful but also playful watch. I really like it. That's number 43 in the Sotheby's auction that's going to take place on Friday. Thank you for that 9.99 super chat, JB. I appreciate you. Mm. Number 73 is a watch, so 78 I wanted to say, is a watch that I really love. This is basically the split second chronograph that Breguet built on that famous Nouvelle Lemania base. Has all the trappings of a modern Breguet wristwatch, from the teardrop lugs of the case to its coin-edged band, the fluted decoration all around the case. Beautiful sapphire exhibition case back that presents the depth and complexity of this split-second chronograph movement with a swan neck regulator. It's a really gorgeous piece. 39.47. You have the kind of hobnail guilloche in the middle, another dimension of engine turned finish for the chronograph registers. Of course, the Breguet hands, as well as the two centrally deployed chronograph seconds hands, are kiln fired to this wonderful shade of blue. The movement number represented on the dial, as well as the secret Breguet signatures there, flanking 12 o'clock, the Roman numeral there at 12 o'clock. Rattrapante signifying the function, and roughly at 9 3/4 you have the pusher to separate the chronograph hands. This is lot 78 in white gold, 38 millimeters in diameter, so a perfectly wearable watch. What a gorgeous piece. $20,000 to $30,000. A nice trio that would even please, for in large part, our beloved Saad, because at least two of them are 6 digits. A wonderful trio of Rolex day dates at 79, 80, and 81. A great two-tone root beer, 1675/3 at lot 82. Estimated value of 12 to 18,000. A single red Submariner at 83. This is the 4-digit Submariner with the dates, with a single red line of writing that spells out the model name. Very iconic reference. And that is listed for around 15 to 25,000. The 4-digit Submariner, no dates, 5512. The only difference between 5512s and 5513s was the chronometer certification. 5512s were chronometer certified, 5513s were not. Ultimately, it became a matter of preference in present time, right? Some people love the fact that 5513, because it doesn't spell out, since it wasn't certified as such, superlative chronometer certified. So it simply has 2 lines of writing, which is a beautiful bare bones aesthetic, especially for the balanced dial of a Submariner that doesn't have the date function, that doesn't have an opening to show the date. And some people prefer the 5512 because it was the reference at the time, whereas 5513 was the derivative, was the cheaper version. I don't know. I'm quite happy with my 5513. 6263 at lot 87 is another big red. $60,000 to $90,000 of an estimated value. 6263 Paul Newman at 90, an exotic dial Panda. $200,000 to $400,000 of estimated value at lot 90. At lot 88, you have a reverse Panda, and that is a Sigma dial, right? These 2 circles that at the time referred to the white, referred to full gold appointments on the dial, right? That's what the Sigma apparently refers to. And 88 is estimated to fetch somewhere around $40,000 to $60,000. And another stainless steel Paul Newman Daytona with the exotic dial 6239 with the matching stainless steel tachometer bezel. And lot 89 is expected to fetch $150,000 to $250,000. At 91, we have, again, one of the beautiful examples of the white dial Zenith Daytona. I don't want to repeat what I said already, but you already know. If you know, you know. If you don't know, tell those who don't know. This is, I think, going to be a future collectible, desired watch. They're not extremely limited in number, so it's not going to be shooting through the stratosphere anytime soon. But for the kind of deal it represents, I think it can do something in your collection that can have an added value, because 5-digit Rolexes in general are extremely wearable. So this is a great watch for everyday wear, and it's a great watch to keep. It's a very versatile watch. You can wear it on the bracelet. It's beautiful. Uh, it has the Polish center links too, so great, for those of you who like it. If not, pop out the bracelet, put it on a leather strap. It can basically carry you through any occasion. I mean, it's such a beautiful and elegant watch, either in black or white dial. I think it's still one of the unsung myths of the Rolex range. Um, we have the Eye of the Tiger Daytona at 94, yellow gold diamond sets, estimated value of 150 to 350,000. Hey Boston, how are you doing, man? Yeah, I think Boston Collector is talking about lot 90. No? Or wait a second. Let's see. Or do you mean by third Paul Newman, do you mean the third one that's associated with Paul Newman? Through Stan Barrett? Is that what we're talking about? Because I'm kind of tired about that whole, discussion. Um, but yeah, hopefully it's not that. Or is it this one? Is it number 50? Hey John D, how are you doing, man? Yeah, yeah, Stan. Yeah, I mean, look, they're gonna keep finding more and more Paul Newman Daytonas, I'm sure, because where they don't exist, they will invent them. Um, I mean, it's kind of, I know Voltaire has said it. Flaubert recorded it in a way and repeated it, but how does it go in English? Um, if God did not exist, it would be necessary to invent him. So if a third Paul Newman doesn't exist, it is necessary to invent it. A fourth Paul Newman certainly doesn't exist, but I'm sure they will find a way to invent it. Why not the fifth and sixth one as well? I mean, some of this gets a little gimmicky and unpleasant for me. There are already so many different ways that speculation ruins the watch market. So let's not let's not just play around with any old Paul Newman that has some sort of loose association to Paul Newman. I know you highlighted something that Stan Barrett has actually done, which is just great. So they should have tried to sell it on that basis. That's a good enough provenance. You don't have to, mix it with a Paul Newman sauce. No pun intended. So I don't know. I get a little tired of some of the auction gimmicks, to be honest. It is what it is. I'm kind of weird like that. So some things rub me off the wrong way, and there's no other way of convincing me. Yeah, sometimes they start relatively low so they can tease people into bidding more. So that might be part of it. And the lemon dial one, apparently, I don't know who it belongs to, but it's presented as something that belonged to, not only was it photographed in Pucci Papaleo's book, it was also owned by a prominent diplomat. I really don't know who that is. But that's a beautiful watch as well. There is, I don't know what happened here, but number 100 is missing, and as far as I know, number 100 is a very beautiful Audemars Piguet perpetual calendar as well. In fact, with a so-called Yves Klein blue dial. I don't know where it has gone. I don't know if it's been pulled from the auction for one reason or another. I really have no clue, but it's not there anymore. 101 is a very beautiful piece, very desirable in its own way. The black ceramic perpetual calendar, open worked dial. The reference number is 26585 CE. This is kind of a more butch version, of course, of the tradition of Audemars Piguet Royal Oak perpetual calendar, which usually iterated or used to iterate the the extra thin jumbo case, but more recently the 41 millimeter version has become much more popular, and the ceramic iterations certainly go along that road. Number 101 is exactly that, 150 to 250,000 US dollars of estimated value. Bezos has an interesting analogy there. I remember when Chubby Checker had the hit song The Twist, and then Let's Twist Again, he followed it up with 5 more twist songs, each less and less good. Hey man, great analogy. I would love, especially the traditional version, the ones that are built on the extra thin jumbo case. Perfect. Whatever dial color. I don't know if you know my distaste for open worked / skeletonized. I don't know. Give me something. I would certainly love a perpetual calendar Royal Oak in any configuration, in any metal, in 39 millimeter, in the jumbo case. I would love it. Um, this one is a beautiful, beautiful piece. Platinum chiming watch, limited edition, exquisite hand guilloche work on the dial. 175th anniversary, jumping hour piece in platinum, also a minute repeater, service sealed in this case. Actually, I backtracked. The case as well as the dial is hand engraved, so it's even one more level up compared to guilloche, which is of course hand guided when it's done properly. This is a reference 5275. Again, one of the watches Patek chose to make to celebrate its 175th anniversary. Jumping hour, minute repeater, lots 103, 300 to $500,000. And that was retailed by Tiffany and Company as well. Not that that is necessarily remarked on the watch itself, but nevertheless. Here's a beautiful example of the 5970 that was retailed and also co-signed by Tiffany, platinum with a black dial. Very beautiful, very, in a way, very serious watch, but has also kind of a sporty look as well. Gorgeous piece. Lot 105 is reference 5970p, retailed by Tiffany. And since, even though it dips into the Patek Philippe seal era, since this is still a watch that's built on the Lemania base, the movement would be still carrying the hallmark of Geneva, as you can see, for example, right here. Again, a very, very gorgeous watch. I mean, here's another perpetual calendar chronograph that I wouldn't kick out of bed for sure. You know, even though this is probably a smidgen too large for my wrist, but anyway, we can work with that. 300 to $400,000. This is a Patek Philippe watch that I adore completely. Everything from the case design to the way they match the red accents of the dial with the contrast stitching on the strap. You know, the fact that it is a split-second chronograph, but also has the moon phase at 12 o'clock, which I always prefer because it somehow gives that romantic complication the center stage. It's a platinum perpetual calendar split seconds chronograph and a monopusher as well. And the rattrapante function is initiated. The two centrally deployed chronograph hands are separated by the additional pusher at the crown, on the crown, I should say. I wanted to say, all right, so let's read about this watch a little bit because it's a very unique piece and it doesn't exist in so many different um, ways. I mean, it's a very unique piece of Patek Philippe's history. Introduced as at Baselworld in 2010, 5951 stunned the watchmaking industry for being the thinnest perpetual split seconds chronograph ever crafted by Patek Philippe. Housed in a cushion-shaped platinum case, the watch is inspired by Patek Philippe wrist chronographs from the 1920s and is a favorite among watch collectors looking for important complications. The dial layout on the watch is, on the other hand, modern with innovative positioning of the day and month windows, as well as the leap year, day and night aperture, all inspired by contemporary watchmaking elements. Perhaps the most distinctive feature of the reference 5951 would be its red chronograph hands, propelled by the manual winding chronograph 27525, allowing the user to track two sets of lap times. The attractive movement can be admired through the sapphire display back engraved by Patek Philippe's very own PP seal. 5951 was discontinued just after 5 years of production with only approximately 150 pieces. So it's very, very rare indeed. This is lot 106, 250 to $400,000. By the way, guys, I have about 20-25 minutes left on the clock. So if you have any specific questions or requests, you might as well send it out now, and I will try to attend to it before the end of the broadcast. Good night, man. I don't have a cold, but I have smoked a few cigars earlier today, so it might have affected me a little bit, but I'm doing just fine. But thanks for asking. I appreciate you. Yeah, just let me get some water while we tackle the last 20 minutes of this broadcast. In the meantime, please hit the like button. It makes all the difference in the world. Yeah, long day, long broadcast. The cigars, it's not easy. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. No, I mean, I'm not complaining. Life is good. Whatever. Uh, 108 is again a beautiful cushion-shaped case. This time, a more traditional design with Breguet hands, Breguet numbers that match the pink gold case beautifully. This is a 5020R Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronograph in a cushion-shaped case. Comes as a full set from 2004. Lot 108 is estimated to fetch somewhere between $150,000 to $250,000. 5980. This is a model that our very own JJ called Rich Man's Bluesy, and it's a very interesting take on what the kinds of things that people keep saying about watches. This is, of course, the flyback chronograph version of the Patek Philippe Nautilus in two-tone. pink gold against the base of stainless steel. 5980/1AR-001, and lot 111 is expected to go for something between $100,000 to $200,000. And 5712, which was for the longest time kind of the orphan of the modern Nautilus range, but came to be appreciated in a wholly different way because it was the immediate successor to the first genuinely complicated Nautilus in 3712, and is built on the base of that gorgeous Patek Philippe Micro Rotor Caliber 240. So it was due that it was recognized in some way. Of course, it's kind of heartbreaking that for those of you who want this watch, for it to have shot up to this level of desirability and this kind of price point, but it is what it is. I just thank my lucky stars that I don't even like this design. This is lot 110 with an estimated value of $100,000 to $200,000. $5168G, which is kind of the extra jumbo Aquanaut in white gold. These are larger than the 5167 A's. This one has a gradient blue dial with a navy tropic strap. It has an estimated value of $70,000 to $100,000. That's lot 112, and the steel version at lot 113 is expected to fetch somewhere between $50,000 to $80,000. You have the modern expression of the Patek Philippe annual calendar in white gold at lot 115, 5205G. That is estimated to go for somewhere between $35,000 to $55,000. The older version of the annual calendar, 5035R, the one that doesn't have the moon phase or the power reserve either. It's really the bare bones version, but imagine getting something like this at around this price point. Wow. Because 5035 is Patek's first annual calendar reference, right? So in many ways it is an iconic reference. At the time it was introduced in 1996, this was a Patek exclusive. No one else had this complication. So nowadays maybe it feels outdated to some people. It's too small at 37 millimeters. It doesn't have the moon phase and the power reserve indicator at 12 o'clock like some later versions. But in a way, it's more distilled and more simplistic and perhaps more beautiful for that. This is 5035R. Beautiful piece of history as well. 119 with an estimated value of $15,000 to $25,000. We were just talking about 5512s, and this is a Tiffany and co-branded version of it, and look how beautifully it's signed, actually, in a way that ended up matching the patina of the dial. Wow. 5512 from roughly the mid 70s at lot 121, $20,000 to $40,000. You have a Comex at 123, 5514. This is the reference that was exclusively produced for the professional diving company from France, Comex. And this has an estimated value of 100 to 200,000 US dollars. 124 has, again, one of my favorite Rolex references, the pre-Daytona chronograph. I love these gilt dials in black. They are particularly exquisite. As you know, this is not gilt writing on the dial, but a particular way of making the dial in which these gilt writing really jumps out in relief. So it's a beautiful texture to the dial. I'm not going to change my mind, JB, but this is a reference that I really like too. In a way, it's even more rare, and that might be a little reflected in the price as well, $100,000 to $200,000. The dial is slightly more tropical. I don't particularly love the handset on this one, but that's just a minor nitpick, really. I like this a lot, almost as much as the 6234 that we were looking at earlier. And we have another Padellone at 128, which we examined. This one is in yellow gold, and it's more limited even in number. Again, possibly one of 350 examples rather than 800. It is a complicated Rolex, a triple calendar with a moon phase, a giant watch for its time, for the late 40s, 50s at 38 millimeters. Quite a beautiful piece. And that sort of brings us to the end. So, guys, I have another 10 minutes here, basically, before the midnight. So I'll be here. And if anyone wants to jump on before I close, I'll be more than happy to entertain. Maybe for 10, 15, 20 minutes, we can have a little bit of a chat. Because it's, I don't have enough time to go through what are almost, I think, 180, 200 lots of the Phillips auction. We'll have to save that for tomorrow. Maybe at some point I will take a midday break and do a quick presentation on those. But tonight I had a long day, so I'm probably wrapping up in about 10 minutes and taking a well-deserved break. But if you want to keep me on, I always oblige a kind, generous contribution. I always oblige a big super chat. So I would be happy to discuss any watch-related topic that you would like to introduce, especially if right, sorry, I was distracted. As I was saying, you can always get my attention for the remainder of time if you would like to contribute to the channel. You already know how to contribute. You know, the information is in the crawling ticker. It is included in the video description. You know, I provide a daily service for my most loyal subscribers who support me on Patreon. They get about three, if not more, links to watch deals across this huge, sprawling World Wide Web. You know, a lot of times they are very good deals that you might want to snap at the time I post them. Other times I try to introduce them to different kind of genres, to watches that they might not take a look at on their own on a regular basis. But I also tailor my recommendations according to the tastes of the people who support me on Patreon. So if you want to receive these kinds of links to great deals on the secondary market for watches, you only subscribe for $10 a month on Patreon, and you get about 90 to 100 links every month. I'm going to keep it at $10 until the end of the year, and anyone who signs up now will be grandfathered for next year too. I won't deprive anyone for the benefits that might have an increased rate next year. That might include also other services, but in either case, when you support me on Patreon, you also have a direct line of communication with me wherever I go on Patreon and beyond. I will always oblige you, and I will always advise you on your next watch purchase or collection curation questions. So feel free to sign up on Patreon. Feel free to reach out to me with any specific questions if you want to have another kind of arrangement, and I would be more than happy to help you out with your next watch acquisition. You know, I usually advise people based on what they need, what they desire, what they aspire to, depending on their budget. So I always have something fitting. I always have all sorts of recommendations in different segments of the market. I can do that for singular purchases for one watch, and I can certainly help you build a collection from scratch as well, no matter what market segments you occupy, anywhere from Seiko to the highest echelons of high horology. And of course, if you already have a collection that you are relatively happy with, but you want to take it to the next level, maybe add a few pieces, you know, maybe shift a couple and replace them with something that you feel is an upgrade, that you feel is a new direction that you desire, I can help you with that as well. So in either case, the best way to contact me is my email address, which is lordhellespont5@gmail.com. That is lordhellesportv@gmail.com, and you can see it in the crawling ticker. It is in the video description, and it is actually on the About page of the YouTube channel as well, where it is the contact link. So hit the like button before I log off, please. If you enjoyed this broadcast, if you learned anything from it, I really appreciate you. I'm grateful for your support and presence. Every little bit helps. Again, even hitting the like button, it's absolutely important. I'm gonna return next time with the Philips auction previews. I was so happy to go through Christie's and Sotheby's with you today. I'm glad we got through them. I know Christie's is already happening tomorrow in the morning, so there will be some exciting results. And I am looking forward already to talk about some of the very unique pieces that are in the Philips New York watch auction that is going to be held in New York on the 10th and 11th of December. Thank you, JB. I appreciate you. And thank you for your super chat as well. Yeah, as always, it's almost like, again, no offense to any of the other auction houses, but it's always almost like Philips is playing another game. They're adding another dimension to it. The selection is just so incredible. They have everything that everyone else has and more. I need this too. Now that I have the steel, I want it in yellow and pink gold as well. It's an incredible piece, really, the tri-compacts. Wow. And this is one that's almost in impeccable condition, from the 50s as well. Wonderful. Bias signs, Nautilus Jumbo, the original 3700 reference. They have a Patrizzi 2, they have a Double Red 2, they have a Padellone 2, of course, but so much more as well. Kudos, honestly. I mean, it's hard to say anything else. If you have an open worked black ceramic Royal Oak perpetual calendar, that's good. We have that. And we have it in the new blue ceramic version as well. It's so fascinating. And they have the platinum version of the Jumbo, which they, in an interesting way, this is, wait a second. Okay, this was the 15202. They have a Royal Oak Grande Complication. As you know, again, what you have here is a perpetual calendar split seconds chronograph that is also a chiming watch. So, I mean, it's really not fair. Philips is kind of running the score up a little too much. They should ease up on some of these other guys a little bit. Not too hard. Hey, Basil, man. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good, man. Nice to see you.
Likewise. Figured I'd hop on for a few minutes before you called it a night.
Well, nice to hear you, I should say, because I don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my apartment's it's hurting for certain. I'm actually getting some furniture moved, so a lot of my laundry is like spread out around me. So I'm
That's
kind of submerged in laundry and
you
other
should
things.
you should try it like I do. The last few days, I was trying to set it, as kind of the stage. I have my pants right here. The corduroy. I used to put the jacket here, so it's like make it a lifestyle setting. Just
Yeah.
spruce it up a little bit.
Yeah, I could probably fix I'm thinking maybe a small corner. I could just kind of hide out in that corner and keep clear of of the pitfalls that lie around me.
Hey, Vince asks the real questions. Are you an uptown or downtown guy? Now, in spirit, I'm an uptown guy, but right now I'm in Brooklyn, so doesn't really apply in this case. But yeah, I
Think of that Billy Joel song, "The Uptown Girl."
well, I mean, uptown is in a way, uptown is more street, and downtown
Yeah.
is more square by and large. So by disposition, I'm uptown, but otherwise, I'm all talk. That Basil is going to see me, so he might have a different impression later.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I'll give my fair assessment.
I'm harmless. I'm harmless.
Oh, I'm sure. No fear.
So how's it going? Did you just move, or are you just reorganizing and repopulating the space?
So I actually I've been bouncing around the last 6 months quite a bit. I sold my condo, moved back to kind of house sit for my folks that were away for the summer, and then I actually found an apartment to rent kind of back where I was prior to the move. So I'm actually more in the heart of the city, where I was more in the kind of the suburban section of town. So yeah,
Nice.
it's cool. It's a real nice walkable area. Liking
Oh
the new
yeah.
digs, and yeah, the new apartment's all brand new and nice, and it's really really cool, really good.
It has reopened apparently. Are you familiar with this place called the Coffee Exchange in
Yeah,
Providence?
I am actually. Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Hmm.
I love that place. For the little time I spent in Providence, I used to hit that spot like almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Uh,
Blue State's one of my favorites, right on Thayer Street. That was a good spot.
for sure. I mean that's very, that's near the college as well, of course.
Hmm.
Uh, for sure, for sure. It's yeah, I'm looking forward to visiting you, man, in Providence. That should be a good
Yeah,
time.
definitely. No, I'm
It's
pumped, man. It's gonna be a great time.
it's one of the most, I think, one of the most underrated towns on the East Coast, for sure. I mean, I feel like it's a toss up between Baltimore and Providence. I feel both of these cities are not getting enough credit.
Yeah, Baltimore sadly has been getting credit for some of the bad reasons, but it's
Right.
actually I learned earlier today that it actually is, as far as historical buildings, it has many of the oldest buildings actually in the country. Believe it or
Right.
not, I thought it would have been surpassed by New York and Boston, but Baltimore actually still has a real lot of great old architecture still up and being utilized.
Oh my God. I mean, the Mount Vernon district, for example, like, all the beautiful museum they have there, the Peabody Library, the Washington movement, which is like, must be centuries old. I think it was possibly, I don't want to just pull it out of my backside, but I think the Washington movement in Baltimore may be the oldest movement erected for George Washington,
Wow.
um, which is like the centerpiece of the Mount Vernon neighborhood. But I mean, obviously, the city is much bigger than just that. But I feel like, that was a very historic and beautiful part of the city where you had a lot of beautiful houses too, very walkable, great restaurants. great Indian restaurants, especially. I remember that particular district. But yeah, I kind of miss the East Coast. As you can see, I'm very, very excited about just about anything and everything. So I'm a little bit distracted, but it's quite all right.
That's a good distraction. You know, it's taking in, you know, the sights and smells and sounds that, you know, kind of escaped you for a few years. So it's good times.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's also, I have been in a similar situation with you in terms of the living arrangements. You know, I had my place. I moved out, and I ended up basically, not too far away from it. But ultimately, I ended up, house sitting for a friend for a little bit. So finally, when I go back to Los Angeles, I will be in my new apartment, which I'm gonna decorate from scratch. So I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent.
Ozzy.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey,
I don't know how
man.
long I can stay, but I'm going to try. Good. Nice to meet you, Basil.
Likewise.
It is, Vince. It is actually the Basquiat hoodie that has the Ali / Cassius Clay artwork behind, and a Miles Davis thing here. It's a hoodie that I'm not a hoodie guy for the most part. You will see me like once in a month, you will see me wearing a hoodie on this show. And usually it's a hoodie that means something to me emotionally, or something, like someone gifted it to me or something. And this is one of those. Yeah, good memories nonetheless. No regrets.
I don't have any hoodies. I've worn them all into the ground, and I never buy them, and no one's given me one in
your hoodies. Well, my hoodies, your Crocs or something like that. We all have.
No. I wear hoodies. It's just someone has to give me one. It's really that simple. I won't buy
All right.
them.
Well, at least when I meet you in person, I know what to gift you now, Ozzy.
Oh,
So
awesome!
it's easy.
I could have used one tonight. I went to one of those family, light up maze things with Christmas lights and that sort of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I was cold.
But you didn't have anything, the jacket,
I'll show you what I had.
something.
I'll show you what I had. No, I'll come back. I'll show you what I got. It's some real men style shit, basically. I'll come back.
I can imagine. Yeah, looking forward to that. Hey,
Today,
man,
I was actually. Oh, sorry.
No. Good. Go ahead, Basil.
I was just gonna say today I was actually in a t-shirt and pants. I can't believe how warm it's been.
Actually, honestly, I was quite layered up, but that's just because I'm just enjoying being on the East Coast. But it was a very warm day in New York as well. Yeah, I mean, if it was warm for you, it must be a slightly warmer here, which is a little further down south, of course.
True. Yeah, it's people say, oh, global warming might not be a thing. I'm like, oh, it's a thing. Something's happening. Something's warming us up. Those ice caps aren't taking care of themselves. So,
yeah, so are you ready?
Yes.
You ready?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I can be ready for some. Ooh,
that's a nice one.
That is actually
Atlanta.
That is actually quite beautiful.
Oh wow,
man.
That's a champion. That's like a vintage one.
Yeah, this is a real deal. This is original. It came in packaging, new in vacuum seal.
Like new old stock. Yeah, sure.
Oh, look at
Hey,
those.
Junior.
Look
at those rings.
Jacket.
Ozzy, I was expecting some tacky shit.
This is not tacky.
I mean, instead you came up with something, that Amiri Baraka once said this, that it's like he has a whole essay on being bad, like that something is so bad that it's good.
Yes. I've made many friends in bars with this jacket. Basically, most of my circle of friends in Seattle was a result of them spotting me from across the room ordering a old fashioned. It's like, what the hell's that guy wearing?
Hey, that's a beautiful piece, man. I actually love it. That's something I would wear very proudly as well.
Oh, really? Yeah. I don't wear it too often because it wasn't made to last this long.
That's right. That's right.
It's not quality. This is what was it? Champion. This is not.
Well, they do make an upscale product these days that's sold at obnoxious nosebleed prices and made in Canada. And
Right. I think about like 2 to 3 years ago, they started with a little bit of a sort of a vintage heritage sort of upscale sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a relatively similar kind of vintage inspired Nike zip up that resembles the like the 92 US uniforms a little bit, like kind of the Golden Boy Oscar de la Hoya kind of vibe rather than the Atlanta 96. So I love it. Sorry,
Junior forced me to mess up my headphones.
It's okay. That's something I wear quite often, especially to work out, but like, also just
it's really inappropriate. Like, this is the warmest jacket that I've got, and this is supposed to be for the Summer Olympic team, you know what I mean, in Georgia in summer.
Okay. In that case it is inappropriate in the sense that, like, even if you layer up inside, that's not gonna keep you warm, especially not in the desert at night.
Yes. Junior, come on.
No, it's good, man. We love having him on. You want to sing or something? Do you know a song?
Branding somewhere. Oh, yeah.
Does Junior know a song that he can sing?
Junior, can you sing? Do you want to sing? Huh? Yeah, sing. You can go ahead and sing. Yeah, not so much.
I don't.
You can do better. You can do better sometime. Okay, it's okay.
I was the thing that surprised me in a good way is usually when you tell that to a kid, even if they were doing something, they would probably shy away, but he actually went at it. I love that.
Yeah. So what were you guys talking about before I interrupted?
Nothing.
Okay.
Basil was just nice enough to jump on for the last few minutes because I had just finished. There were 3 auction previews that I was doing.
Oh, yes.
I just didn't have time to get to Philips at all. So I finished 2 and I was going to sign off, and Basil was nice enough to drop by and have a quick chat. But if you have something in mind, we can take a few minutes to talk for sure.
What was I doing today? No, nothing in particular. Someone helped me track down what the price of a Platinum Daytona was.
On the secondary market?
Actually MSRP, because it's not listed on the website. So I was just wondering like how close those gray prices are to MSRP these days. And it's getting close. It's within striking distance of, I imagine if you tried to flip a Platonia, you'd lose money.
So it's, I know they keep increasing it. So what is the official MSRP now for the Platinum?
I don't know if it's official because it's all just third-hand information, but I think about 76, 78,000 between the 2 dials.
Wait, it's only $2,000 upcharge for the baguette?
It might be more, but I mean that was the range I was quoted, so who knows? But I think the baguettes are not a huge upcharge on the other ones as well, so it's plausible.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just, it kind of sounds unreal that, 77 again, it's not a reasonable amount for any watch whatsoever, right? We have to find
yes, that's true.
Other ways of rationalizing it, but for the desirability of that watch, it doesn't sound so bad if you could actually get it at that price.
Yeah, the attraction to me is that it is a step up from the steel, clearly, and
no
I
shit.
would wear it. That would be like that's the attraction. Like I don't think I could do the full gold. Look at my wife's one. I'm just like, it's way out there. But the platinum, like no one will know what that is for the most part.
Yeah, I mean white metal. I mean, of course, it's going to be kind of light weightlifting a little bit, so it's a different feel for sure. But at least it's a white metal, so it is a little more versatile compared to a full bracelet pink gold watch or full bracelet yellow gold watch.
Don't ask me how I know, but I saw someone weigh their platinum Daytona at 260 something grams, which surprised me because my wife's gold Daytona, with all the links removed, pretty much is 245 grams. So there's not much difference in the weight, despite platinum being heavier.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah,
it's possible that it's a different watch again. Like, as I said, like the steel and the gold are different watches. The gold is bigger in every dimension. Maybe the platinum Daytona is more similar to the steel size than the gold.
Possibly. I love that maroon bezel. For whatever reason, it was very uncool when it first came out. Everyone had something negative to say about it. I think I always thought it was cool, but at that time, not that I could swing it, but I also really did not like Daytonas at the time. Now I'm warm to the idea, of certain kinds, and certainly, I mean,
I'm colorblind, so it looks like a black bezel to me. That's fine.
That's great. It works for you.
Yeah, it's a black bezel to me. And it honestly is like I'm green red colorblind, so if there's something with like a touch of red in it, I can't see it. And it's possible that plays into my dislike of the Pepsi a little bit too, which is mixing a little touch of red in both of the colors, and then the red itself is like very muted.
I wish you didn't say that, because now I'm basically left alone.
You're on your own. You can see it properly and you dislike it when you say you're the only person.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, for your purposes, a white gold on Oyster Flex would be a great one as well, if you can get one of those.
It would. I'm not super keen on any of the configurations except for Meteorite. Like I think the steel looks kind of the coolest, but I also think it's not really worth the money. As in, like, I don't really feel for it that much. But I think I could pull anything on Oyster Flex except for yellow gold. My complexion's a little too dark for yellow gold for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of yellow gold watches in general, but on other people they look cool. And there are a lot of iconic yellow gold Daytonas in every single generation, basically. So I can't really hate on that.
Yeah. I'll talk to my AD about the Platona yesterday. You saw the wagon of Amazon returns here? That's going to be about $60,000-$70,000 worth of. So I'll have no problem with cash flow as long as these returns go through.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, that was a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff. Basically, it takes me ages to build up enough stuff that it's worth going down to the local drop-off point. I just keep filling the wagon up until it gets even I'm sort of like, whoa, that's a little bit too much stuff to leave lying around. It's like that'll hurt if Amazon says I can't return it because I've left it for too long. How's the audio right now? How's it been going? Do I need to do more? Is it loud enough?
Oh, I think
you sound good.
Yeah.
Okay. I put the orange sock on it because it's distracting.
Distracting who?
It's distracting. It's good because I mean it's not like I'm a beautiful woman or something like that, and if you look at the red microphone
Ozzy, you're also not a beautiful man either.
Yeah,
I mean, with all due respect, you know, I
Yep.
like it,
Yeah.
but look, man, I mean, it's good. It sounds good. I don't know if I
Good.
care about anything else.
Yeah. I'm just working it all out. I mean, like you probably went through it. The microphones are real tricky and they cost a lot of money. So it's and it's very hard to tell. You got to really test it and figure it all out.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
was thinking about getting like the Shure S7B, but I was looking at the details of that. So it's the one that like every podcast uses, and
what is the
it's like
price
yours.
on that?
It's not that much. It's like $350, which this is. I mean, sorry, it's $370, and this is like $350. So there wasn't much difference in terms of price, but in terms of usability, that one's a little trickier to use. Like you need,
Really?
you need a lot of amplification, and I've got a good dedicated amp, but not enough for that. Like that needs
It's
like
not a USB kind of deal, huh?
no.
Okay.
Well, this is also XLR.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the kind of stuff that's a little more professional, needs amplification and
Yeah. So I've got amplification, but just not enough for that one. So like my preamp is capable of maybe 30 decibels of amplification and phantom power. So it's good. It's just not for that thing. You need about like 70 decibels of amplification, and most things don't have that. You need to run an extra layer of amp on it. It's just more headache. You just don't need that.
yeah, it feels a little too much to worry about. I do want to get something like clip
A
on
lav?
microphone. That's not
I
too.
don't think you should move away from the one that you've got, honestly.
Oh no, not for the home setup, but like when I'm out on the road like this, rather than having something too elaborate and too big.
Yeah, for sure.
That?
So the Rode Wireless Go 2, this is awesome. So this one goes on you. Let me just turn it on. So this one goes on you, charges off USB-C.
Mm-hmm.
If you're out of range of the receiver, it still records on here. You can use the app to download it in case you've fucked up.
Okay.
But you do have to go into the app and set it up to do that. By default, it doesn't. I learned the hard way. Like I lost some footage.
Yeah,
and then
you were telling me that story. I remember that.
And then it does have 3.5 mil jack out, which is pretty good for most things. But a really neat trick is you just go from USB-C and it picks up as an audio device on anything that's reasonably capable. So, I mean, you use a thing to mount this on like a cold shoe or something like that. But this means that you no longer have to use like a audio to a digital to analog conversion, then analog to digital conversion just to get back into your phone. Or if you've got a camera or something like that, if it can take the USB-C in, that's ideal, because the problem with so you can see the volume meters, you can keep track of audio level. It's really good. And you can run dual lavs, so you can have one of the mics on like a stick, so you can interview someone with it. You can have left and right channel so that they're separate. So left channel is your mic, right channel is theirs, so that can be really clean. And then you fix it up in post, or you can just combine the two. You can adjust peak volume levels on that really well. Battery life is about 15 hours continuous. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really solid. It doesn't take long to charge, like maybe 30 minutes. So yeah, highly recommend the Rode Wireless Go 2s. There's a few other products on the market, but they're not cheaper. So I really don't recommend it too much. And it's very hard to have audio equipment that, well, as long as you get up to sort of at least prosumer sort of level, audio equipment will last you a very long time. That's why I prefer microphones on the XLR, because this stuff won't be deprecated that easily. I don't need software drivers for it and stuff like that. And these microphones are expensive. I mean, the one I just pulled off was about $250, but it's still good as long as I've got an environment that has less less noise.
I mean, on Amazon, they seem pretty well priced. It
The
says,
wireless Go 2.
yeah, Rode
Yeah.
Wireless Go 2 dual channel wireless microphone system. It's discounted to $232 from $299.
That's a fair price. That's a good price. The only thing that I could say that might be better is there's a company called Saramonic. They're relatively new, but they may make a module, because I think you're an iPhone person, right?
Yeah.
They may make a module that is compatible with iPhone's Lightning, which, as I said, anything you can do to avoid going to 3.5 mil. So the good thing about having a digital link is obviously maybe quality is better. I would say maybe not. But a digital link, the phone can tell whether or not it's successfully connected to the device. And I've lost a lot of audio on many times I've gone out because the 3.5 mil wasn't properly in, or it was engaged but not properly engaged, or the cable was broken, and there's, you're running like 2 sets of dongles just to get across analog. So I would say if you can get it to go to Lightning, that's the way to go. But possibly USB-C to Lightning. If you get a little cable, it'll work. I don't know. I'll show you the little tripod I've got that I use. Hold on.
For the Rode Wireless?
Yeah, so just a little mobile one, but the actual phone holder that I use has a cold shoe mount, so you can put the Rode Wireless there. Come on, there we go. And then I put the phone in, and then I can have it plugged in, no problem. So yeah, it's pretty good.
And otherwise, how does it record? I mean, you can connect it to the computer as well, no?
I've never tried that, but I think you can. It'll recognize it as a USB-C device. Because that's all it's doing. It's basically a USB-C audio device, so it'll work on the phone, work on... let me turn this on. I'll show you what it does.
Because you'll basically put the receiver on one end and the transmitter on the other. I mean, that's the system, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So this is the receiver. Now the phone's got it. I'll put it onto video. So on the Samsung app, it doesn't show much. On Google, you got to go through settings, never get a Google phone. But when you hit record, there'll be a little message that pops up saying recording through the USB mic. And that tells me that, yeah, it's working. And then you still have volume meters up top, so you can check the levels, as you can see there. And cool. I'm currently running like -3 dB. You always want to run a little bit negative. This thing can clip out really easily, like pop, pop, pop. See, it's clipping right there. So they tend to be a little boomy. Sometimes if I'm outside, I'll run like -16 decibels or something like that. But yeah, very, very good mic. This is the least trouble mic I've had, and it cuts wind relatively well.
And you do a lot of recording outside, just kind of in the backyard kind of mood.
Yeah, so. Nevada has a lot of wind, so I experimented with a shotgun mic. It wasn't good enough. It's a pain in the ass, actually. So yeah, it's good. These do an okay job. Sometimes you'll have to run it like underneath your jacket type thing. It does get a little bit muffled, but at least it's actually audible.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't want to be unkind, but I think I will have to go. It was a long day. So
no worries. Yeah, I saw you streaming before I went out. I was like, I can't join you. I got things to do at the moment.
Yeah, and I even started a little late today, so
wow.
Still, we went for about 3.5 hours. Thank you for joining me, guys, at the very end. Thank you, everyone,
course.
for your support and presence. JB, thank you for your generous super chat, which is always appreciated. I'll be back with the Philips auction reviews, hopefully sometime tomorrow. If not, we'll find some other thing to do. But in either case, I'll be back around the same time. And until then, peace. I'll see you guys around. Take care. Bye, guys.
Take care, everyone.